Hello, hello. Good morning. We're here. Well, we'll go ahead and get started. I know a bunch of you will be showing up here in just a minute anyway. Welcome to the Art of Fire Glassblowing Studio. We're outside of Damascus, Maryland. I'm Bruce Ferguson. I'll be doing the video and some of the commentary. And welcome to all of you. Welcome, Bridget. Glad to have you here. Realized before today's broadcast that we've been getting a lot of new viewers here, and sometimes we haven't told everybody about what we've got going on. So here we are outside the studio, and we'll take a quick entry into the gallery area, maybe show you a couple little exhibits, and then for those of you that aren't familiar with us and our work, we'll show you a little bit more each week as we go along. So join us as we enter the Art of Fire. So this is a converted dairy barn, and it was a working farm until about 1985, I believe. Foster and Theda moved in here in 1996, worked on building the place up, and in 99 the studio opened. So this is our gallery area. We're not going to show you everything we have, but we'll show you a few exhibits. So here's the display case we have right after you come in, and a beautiful lighted cabinet with some I think some of you might have seen the black and white Reticello piece made weeks ago. This platter back here is what we call a wigwag pattern, and this is the wigwag pattern down here in a beautiful vase or closed bowl shape, if you like. And one of these days before too long, we'll show you how we join glass with wood. So there's our first display case, but let's go ahead on back and see what we got going today. And today's theme is, let's see, what is today's theme? Oh yeah, stained glass mosaic vase. So Todd had a special order from someone that wanted a stained glass mosaic. We'll show you a few samples of what those pieces are like. Good morning, Mary Beth. Hello, Renee. Joanna, great to have you with us. There's the man of the hour. Good morning, Todd. Got Todd Hansen here. There we go. Okay, so these are samples of the types of piece that Todd's going to make today, and they have a very interesting use of what we call Murini, which is basically cane that's been sliced up. You've seen us pull cane before and make cane pieces, and so they usually have lines of color like these over here. Sometimes the groups can be cut up into small squares and placed together, or alternating patterns like this, but today we're going to use what is sometimes looks like a window. So right here is a perfect example. This beautiful pink vase here has little squares where the color is on the outside of each square and the center is filled with clear. And here's a multicolor one with the same effect. Now, if we turn those squares 90 degrees and look at the color edge, this is the effect we get. And what's interesting is when you see these darker blue edges on this square right here, that's because you're looking down through the entire length of color and it has more intensity, whereas the center is lighter. So that's why you see some of the more intense blue and pink lines in there. Now, this particular type of Murini is made, and we do what's called snorkeling with the glass. If we have time at the end of today's presentation, Todd will show that. But if we don't have time for it and you don't see it, if you go to our YouTube channel, we just filmed about a 20-minute video of Todd snorkeling some glass. So those of you that have asked about it before, that's what we have, okay? So we've done that, and I'm going to show you a little bit about the canes right now. Again, if there's time, we'll snorkel, but making the piece is the bigger deal. Here, though, are samples of the Murini that Todd is working with today. They were pulled yesterday. So on the row closest to us, closest to you, you can see that we have them turned so it looks like a window. There's clear glass in the middle with a colorful boundary. By turning the piece 90 degrees, we expose the color then, and the color is what you see. It was Todd's birthday a week ago, hence the balloons back there. So when we look through the color, this is what we see. So that's what why the pieces appear so brilliant, and they will get the effect of stained glass. Sitting on a white piece of paper, you can kind of see the colors, but there's no backlighting. So, the way the canes are filled with the clear glass is a cylindrical tube is made. It's open on both ends. You put one end of it into the furnace. It's carefully constructed so it makes full contact with the glass in the furnace. And then you suck on the blowpipe real hard. And we would have to have like 40 times the human power to bring it all the way up through the pipe and into our mouth. There's not that much of a vacuum created. But with a tube of glass, we can bring it up inside, and this way the center of our cane is lined with clear glass. So again, if we have a chance, we'll show you that. Right now, Todd has the Murini that were made yesterday, carefully selected. Todd, you are getting thousands of belated happy birthday wishes. So, there we go. So here is the plate that has the canes on it. The Murini. Todd's using a pair of paddles to squeeze them together. He wants this entire sheet fused. All the little pieces have to stick together. We don't want them dropping off when he goes to pick it up. He's also careful to make sure that it doesn't get stuck to the plate. So he takes the plate every once in a while and changes the angle. He's going to take a measurement now to check what he needs. Those are pie dividers, not P-I-E, P-I, as in upcoming March 14th, 314. So the one end of it he sets to the width of the plate of canes, or Murini, and the other end, the circular end, then lets him calculate the diameter needed. He's going to rotate the piece because the burner in the glory hole is on one side of the glory hole. And if he presented the same side all the time, here comes the noise. He concentrates that heat in the center with the torch because when he goes in the glory hole, the sides of that construction act like a dam and kind of stop the heat from going in from the side. So he's got a little extra heat there. So he's going to keep heating that until it's well fused together. And here are the pie dividers. This is what he uses to set the diameter right here of the collar on the blowpipe to pick up the glass. So it's a real handy tool. The geometry is already worked out, and away we go. Yeah, the plate that he has the Murini on is ceramic. It's kiln shelf, and he has it coated with what's called a kiln wash. And that keeps or helps keep the glass from sticking to the plate. The glass will stick to the plate if you overheat it too much, so that's why he's very careful about timing his heats. Again, squeezing it, getting it all squared up and keeping a nice shape, but also making sure it's all fused. And you'll notice as it fuses, he can turn it with his metal paddles and not have to bother with putting on gloves and rotating the whole plate. Foster's going to pick up the plate and take a heat. Todd now is going to go for the collar. So the collar will be constructed to meet the size of the opening on the pie divider. Todd's going to blow through the glass tube pipe while he's in the furnace. That opens the end of it up. Now he's got the end of that completely open. He's going to roll it and shape it. He'll keep the opening at the end there so that he can blow through when it's time. He'll check his diameter. If he needs to cut it down, he'll press harder on the iron if he had needed to open it up any. But once he can slide right through, he's perfect with it. And now we'll watch from back here and get a view of the roll-up. Foster brings the plate over to the bench. Todd will make contact along the sheet of cane, sheet of Murini. Simply rocking back. That's pretty thick stuff, so that's why it doesn't just roll up like the canes often do. The canes we use might only be 1/8 of an inch thick or so. These Murini are much thicker than that, and they don't want to bend so much. Thank you, Michelle. We appreciate the compliment. Yeah, like a fruit roll-up. Yep, Yeah, we're going to make a dessert out of this. So, he's got that done. He's going to use the marver to kind of push the glass around. He could have got that hot enough that it all would have been floppy and moved, but it would have been hard to control, and it would have been very difficult to manipulate, and he wouldn't have kept his shape. So that's why a little bit less heat and just a little force. You saw him using the brush there. There's a little bit of kiln wash that sticks to the back side of the Murini, and early in the process we want to dust that off. Virginia, Todd is making a mosaic pattern vase. It's supposed to look like stained glass. So he's got what's called Murini on here, little squares of glass, multiple colors. And now you can see how he's using the stationary edge of that metal table to manipulate the glass, and it still takes a good bit of force. Do you have to keep the wood piece warm also? I'm not sure what wood piece we're talking about. Okay, so now he's starting to get a cylinder formed here. He's going to begin to use his tweezers and gently manipulate the glass and bring it back around. What he'll want to do eventually is get all of those pieces that were the edge to touch up into a really nice seam. Once he gets a couple of points of contact in there, he'll be able to roll it on the marver and settle it down and seal it completely. So, Sharon, you missed the beginning. Okay, yeah, you can go back and watch that because we're not going to do it again right now. Nah, I'm just teasing. Once this is the really cool thing about glass blowing. It's kind of like a musical performance. Once you start, you just keep going. This ain't no rehearsal. So if you blow a note out of tune, you just gotta recover from it and keep going. And Todd's got this completely in tune. He'll probably favor us with a song or some whistling in a minute here. Now by simply pressing it in spots on the marver, you can start to close it up. You can see there's still a gap there. He has to keep these lines even also. So by using the back of the tweezers, the hinge at some points, or the edges, he's able to manipulate the glass without pinching it. If he pinched real hard with the tips of the tweezers, then he would have to get rid of the creases that were created. Michael Herman is watching, and he said he waited until after the pickup to say hello. Welcome, Michael. Okay, so now Todd's got all his Murini on there, and when he kind of looks around under the pipe to see what's going on, he's simply making sure that the pieces are opposite one another. If one side of this stretched a little further, he'd have a really awkward line going out. So, for those of you that joined us a little bit late, these are Murini here. And these are made by putting a clear bunch of glass in the middle of the color. You've seen us pull cane where we surround the color with clear and pull it out thin. This is a case of where we make little windows. And we'll explain a little bit about that process. And if there's time at the end, we'll show you how we snorkel. But we did do that on the YouTube video, which was a half hour before this. So if you're interested in seeing how snorkeling is done, check out our YouTube channel and you'll be able to see that process. It's a lot of fun. and people really get a kick out of watching a glass blower stick the pipe into the furnace of 2,000 degree glass and suck in on the blowpipe. But for those of you that think it's like watching a train wreck, there really is no danger. Okay, so now he's getting the cylinder formed and he wants a nice uniform shape. And there's that beautiful cylinder. Now with the heat, it's hard to tell the colors, but we'll go back over here to this little sample set of the Murini while he's reheating. And he's got some ruby red color, he's got emerald green, and he's got gold, okay? So those are the color choices, and we'll explain a little as we go along. So this demonstration is probably going to take almost the entire time. And as such, Todd's going to be doing a lot of heating and a lot of manipulating. So the time that we normally tell you about our charity event and other such thing, we'll just try to work that in as we go. Right now, he's straightening up the bottom. You can see that one side was a little bit longer than the other. So he's kind of flattening that a little bit. Do that either at the marver or with a hand tool. And you can see that those Murini pieces are all nicely in a line, and they make a series of straight lines, both horizontally and laterally, or vertically on this. Beautiful, nice combination. Okay. So, still got a little ways to go on this. He wants to get these almost to the point that they're smooth. Yeah, Michelle, the gold will look great. They really are kind of like gemstone colors, a little bit of ruby, a little bit of emerald, and a little bit of gold. So while we're waiting for the heat, I'd like to tell you about our charity event running right now. It's called Cats for Kids. The charity is No Kid Hungry. I'll tell you about what the rest is on that sign as you watch Todd work this piece. So Todd has come up with a color pattern for the cats. We call them Maryland colors. And with the studio's long association with the Maryland Renaissance Fair, and also the fact that we're in Maryland, he's chosen colors that are emblematic of the Maryland flag. And he's making these cats. This is only for the month of March. They're $60 each. Shipping is included except overseas. And again, we're really tickled by the fact that we even have people that are overseas watching. Anyway, half the proceeds go to charity. And what are we up to now? About 30 cats or so, John, Todd? Okay, all right. Let's keep them coming, folks. So anyway, yeah, the more orders we take for these Maryland cats, the more goes to the charity.
Yeah, that's during the month of March.
Yep, only the month of March, and it's a limited edition. He's not going to just keep making these forever. And they'll be numbered and signed. So now he's using the jacks to round it out. He's going to get a nice smooth shape on this. He doesn't want to trap any air bubbles when he goes to gather, so that's why it's so critical to keep the outside surface smooth, or as smooth as possible. And everywhere that those Murinis touched up, there's a chance for a little bit of a gap. So it's a long process of heating, shaping, and you'll notice that he's doing this gently. He's not overheating it to where it's just flopping all over the place. It would be totally out of control. But by heating just a little bit, manipulating the glass to almost to the point he wants, and then going back for more heat, he's able to keep control of this. Now I'm trying to stay away from the heat just a little bit. We had a little mishap last week when we were doing our video and the camera overheated, but I'll tell you right now, we've become expert at changing cameras. So if you lose us and the thing goes away, don't give up. We'll switch cameras and be back with you in just a few moments. but hopefully it doesn't happen this week. The video is Barbara, the video is showing continuously live here, so I can't say where the issue is, but we haven't received any notice of interruption yet, and I'm seeing everybody's comments. Now you'll notice sometimes when Todd's rolling on the Marver, he may actually reverse direction for just a moment. That's how the glass blower keeps the line of Murini straight. If you look at this line of Murini from where they join at the blowpipe to where they're down at the open tip, they make a beautiful straight line. If we only turned in one direction, we could get some curvature to it. If in the course of working the piece, Todd noticed some curvature, he'll twist the glass the opposite direction just a little bit to bring the line back straight. So now what they're going to do, we're getting a plug for the bottom. Wrap it. Okay. So what they're going to do is like a lip wrap on the bottom. Go ahead, Foster. I'll get out of the way. He's going to trail that on at the bottom. And this is a Murini saver.
Telomere.
A what?
It's a telomere for all your biological types in
There
there.
you go.
Telomeres. I got them on both ends.
Okay, so if we close everything down and just use the glass where the Murini is, you can lose a lot of the Murini. So by adding a little bit of clear, we have different ways of doing this. We can put strips of glass on the bottom. We can create a plug for the entire bottom. You saw Todd put a wrap on there. Can you wrap for us, Todd? Biggie Hansen. Okay, so now you see him closing down, but notice where the jacks are. Instead of being up in the field of Murini, he's down where the clear glass is. And that's going to allow him to close this off. Well, hello, Scott Farrell. Welcome from Portland, Oregon. Okay, glad you have a few minutes to watch. Okay, so now Todd is going to clip off some of that clear glass. There'll be a little bit right at the bottom, but that's not an issue. So now he has a closed cylinder. So after all this time, all this work and effort, he's just getting to the point that he's able to start making a piece of glass. Okay? So it really is a matter of decorating, can take a long time. And he spent quite a while yesterday pulling the cane that got sliced for the Murini and all that sort of stuff. So there's a lot of hours in this already. And then there's the matter of the heating, the shaping, and taking your time so that everything comes out just right. So now that he's got a closed cylinder, it's a lot easier to keep control of it because the end of it doesn't want to flop open or close. There's still a lot of attention to be paid to this, but when you finally reach the point of closing the tube, you've reached a point that it feels pretty good. It's like, okay, now we can get somewhere. And you'll notice him, if you look at his hands, you can see when he reverses direction with the turn. If he were to turn in one direction only, the glass would twist. If he only turned clockwise, the glass would twist. Or if he only turned counterclockwise, or as we like to say here, widdershins. Okay, so now he's got that closed up, and now he can bring it over. When he marvers like that with the glass on the edge of the table and his hands down low, it pushes the glass off the pipe a little bit. And that helps get a seal there also, but narrows the diameter there. Glass that's on the pipe is not useful for making a piece, unless we were to cut the pipe off and include that in your piece of glass. But I don't think most of us would want that. You're getting compliments on your shirt too, Mr. Hansen. Okay. Okay, so now you can see him kind of shaping it. It's got a bit of a bulge in the middle. He's cooling either side of that, and he's gently putting a little bit of air into it. The whole time he's doing this, he's watching the lines, okay? Hello, Ramiro, welcome aboard. So by watching the lines as he does that, he keeps things nice and straight.
We're gonna do that one more time.
Okay, so in case you are just joining us, Todd's making a Murini piece. It's not going to be the pink and blue like this, but it's going to be very similar. It's going to have red and gold and green in it, some jewel tones, gemstone look, okay? And it'll be little squares just like that. We'll talk about that more later. And while we're waiting on him and he's reheating, I would like to announce that Joy Campbell McGeegan won the diamond optic ornament last week from the drawing. So if you all keep commenting, you're going to get entered in the drawing for next week. We'll turn around real quick and show you what the prize is for next week. It's this bubble ornament right here, made with one of the molds that Ramiro made, and it's got a really interesting profile. It's not completely round. Okay, Todd's back at the Marver now. He's driven in more heat. And by changing the angle of how the glass touches the Marver, he cools different areas of it. Gives a quick inspection just to make sure he's getting things like he wants. Thank you, Kristen. We really appreciate that you like watching the process. Now he's over to the pipe cooler, and the deep heat that he has to take on a lot of that to get the whole ball of Murini hot does transmit a little bit of heat to the pipe. Plus, I think we showed you before that by cooling the pipe, we can change the point at which we grab the iron. And the heavier this gets, the closer we can actually get to holding near the glass. See how far Todd's left hand is up toward the piece of glass, and he's able to hold that comfortably in one hand. He's even going to do some 16-ounce curls for you. Ooh, okay. Now, he's going to let this cool, and as he does, some of the colors will become a little more evident, but this piece is going to have to be blown out in order to really see. As tight as this formation is right now, the density of the color would keep you from looking through it. But when it gets blown out to about, 2 or 3 times that diameter, then there'll be enough space that the light will penetrate and you'll be able to see the Murini inside. He's using his hand, since we don't have a decent thermometer, to gauge the heat emanating from the piece. Okay. Okay, yeah, there you go. All right, so he's just about ready. He's going to go over and take a gather here. The glass is cooled off considerably so that it doesn't, the heat doesn't penetrate the core completely. You can see him really working on getting that out. And then he strips it off back into the furnace. That's why he's pointing it downward. Now as he points downward, you can see the glass drizzle off the end of the piece. This also helps ensure an even coating. By holding it straight down, since gravity is applied equally all the way around the cylinder, the glass pulls off evenly and he doesn't have thick or thin spots along the side. That would cause difficulty later on. By using his diamond shears, he can pull some glass off, and boy, you must have played basketball. Okay. Folks, if the video is stopping and starting, I'm really sorry. We're not getting any indication of that here. And I do know that when we had some difficulty last week, when we finally got things posted on the website, on the Facebook page, everything came through just fine. So rather than have everybody answer, you know, we got a lot of cats around here in the studio, and we often do presentations for groups of young children. Not since COVID, but we've always had groups of elementary school kids come in. And one of the cats will walk by, and there's got to be 30 kids saying, "I have a cat, I have a cat, I have a cat." So to avoid that, I'm going to ask Joanna from the UK, is your video okay? Oh, wow. And she just said it's fine. Okay, so it's fine in the UK. I'm going to ask one more person. Ted Scott, have you lost the video? Patrick's telling me the video is good too. Okay, we'll quit playing that game anyway. So now you can see that Todd's blocked that down. He's got a good gather of glass there. David Hogan, you're blurring occasionally because of your jokes. We have a filter on this that stops you. I'm kidding. Okay. More marvering to cool the tip of the glass. If he gets that outboard in too hot and blows, it will blow it too thin. So you can notice that he's constantly turning here with the pipe angled downward. That cools the outer end of the glass. He comes back and gets the end near the pipe for just a quick touch, okay? And that keeps it straight. But the bulk of the cooling was on the end of the glass. Another gather? All right. Ted Scott says he doesn't have a cat, but yeah, the video stopped for a minute or two. Okay, so now we're back to letting this cool off some more so that he can gather over it. And the clear coating on the outside kind of gives it a different look. It also lets the colors pop a little bit. And as he gets more glass on the outside and begins to blow this out, then you're really going to begin to see the colors come through. So while he's doing that, let's just take a quick look at one of the Murini. So here is a Murini looking at the end, and you can see the little window. So the clear is stuck inside the color. So what we do is we make a tube of colored glass, and then we have a couple of options. Quite often, we'll just open it up like a little cup, and then we'll fill it with glass from another glass blower. But if you're working alone, then what really helps out is to be able to snorkel the glass or make an open tube with that color and then suck the glass up in the blowpipe. And if you want to see that, and we don't have time for it today, please check out our YouTube channel. Here we go with another gather. Into the 2,000 degree furnace, you can see him really twisting on that pipe, gathering up a lot of glass. It's had enough glass on it, he's going to strip some back into the furnace and a little more straight down into the bucket. And again, this gives him a nice even coating along the outside. That's how fluid this glass is. You've been watching that for what, 12 seconds at least already, and it's still just pouring off. He's doing that to control the amount of glass that he has to work with. Working with glass is kind of like a subtractive craft. You can gather a lot and take some off, but if you don't get enough, it's hard to put just a little bit in the places you need. Using the diamond shears to pull the glass and then cut it, and there we go. All righty. You can see the glass deflect toward the floor a little bit when he stops turning for just a moment. And now it's time to heat it up and start working this out. Yes, Joanna, it is awesome. We're very happy with it. So if some of you are just joining us recently, while Todd's taking a reheat, I want to tell you again to take part, or ask you again to take part in our Cats for Kids charity fundraiser. No Kid Hungry is the recipient. The Maryland cats are $60 each. Half of that goes to the charity. We've got a little more than 24 already made, and we're waiting more orders. We'd really like to give them a good sum this time around. The cats will be made only for the month of March. It's a limited edition. Todd will sign them. They'll be numbered. You won't be seeing them on the shelves at the Ren Fair or anything like that when it opens up again. Again, he's cooling the outer half of the gather a good bit. Is the bucket glowing yet? No, the bucket's not glowing yet, Ted. Sometimes when we strip the glass off into the bucket, you can actually see from the sides the extreme heat. But as you can tell, it's just steaming up right now. how long can the glass stay melted in the oven? If we're talking about the furnace, we don't really give it a chance to cook too long. We use a lot of glass. So we probably recharge that 400-pound furnace on average twice a week. And during seasons like the Renaissance Fair, when we're really cranking out glass, it might even be more than that. Let's go watch Todd with some more shaping here. So a lot of this that he's doing, you've seen in other pieces, but done much more quickly, only because they didn't evolve this much glass. They didn't have that big roll of Murini, and they had to be put together. So that time at the Marver, he exclusively cooled the outer end. Now when he blows, you'll see the inflation above that midline. The lower part is not going to substantially increase in diameter. That's because he cooled it. And how many of you know the golden rule about glass blowing? Somebody say it online. Come on, I'm waiting. I came up with that saying. I want to hear it.
Michael could tell you that.
Oh.
Nobody?
Nobody yet.
Nobody's taking notes, huh?
Okay.
They probably didn't know there's going to be black holes.
Hot glass moves, cold glass don't. Thank you, Lynn and Bridget. Yes, thank you both. I got more stupid sayings for teaching glass blowing than you can imagine. In fact, my daughter put a bunch of them on a t-shirt for me, and the bottom of the t-shirt, the last line is, "I need a longer t-shirt." So anyway, Todd now is carefully distributing the heat in that. He's using the jacks to create the jack line, a point of separation from the blowpipe. When he angles the thing over like that, it helps him fight gravity. Okay, normally, or most of the time, when we're cutting jack lines or working it, we hold the piece horizontal. He cooled the bottom a little bit and now a little more inflation, but look how the bubble is mostly up at the top half of the piece. He still has the conical shape at the bottom. That's from all that previous cooling on the Marver. So back to the business about hanging the pipe over. As he's turning now and that glass is cooled considerably, it's very much easier to control, and he can keep it all in line with the pipe. When he first comes out of the glory hole and it's extremely hot, particularly if he only has one hand available to turn the pipe, because he's got the jacks in the other, by angling the iron down at about 45 degrees, even though it runs away from him a little bit, he's able to better control it. All right, Kristen, I'll have to look that up on the comments after everything's done. Okay, so he's getting his jack line, he's getting his diameter. If he needs to blow, he'll cool certain areas of it. We need that jack line cut down, and notice how he's rocking it back and forth at an angle. He's got it under control, but he doesn't have to work as hard to keep the piece in line with the pipe. And that's basically what centering the glass is keeping the glass evenly distributed around its central axis, which is going to be in line with the pipe. Now a little more blowing, you can still see that the bottom is not blowing out excessively. Bridget had a March birthday. I have a March birthday coming up the end of the month. Well, let's hear it for everybody with a March birthday. Let's march to our birthdays. Okay, your jack line pretty well finished? So he's got that line cut down. You can see that it's at least a quarter less smaller than the diameter of the piece. And he needs to have a nice tight neckline, but not too tight, because if he does, it will flop all over. Now, since he's got the sphere with the jack line in it, we've heard this 100 times, haven't you? Now he'll use gravity, centrifugal force, and a little bit of swinging the glass to lengthen it. He has to heat the areas he wants to move, and he'll start gently. See, just holding it down like that at first lengthened it a bit, and now just a gentle swing back and forth. If he gets too exuberant, too fast, it goes out of control. And that's what this is all about. We're all control freaks. Even the ones that weren't air traffic controllers. Todd was actually a navigator, so we share a bit of aviation background there. Okay, so he's brought the piece back out of the glory hole a little bit, and that's to heat the lower reaches of it. So that will allow him to get that part of the glass to move, but not so much the upper part. Notice he puts the whole thing in there just for a few moments to heat it. And again, he starts out with just hanging it down and then a gentle swing. You can see where the heat is. That's the brighter orange color. And he didn't really have to go with a lot of force on the swing because all that weight kept it moving. So the idea is you want to keep it under control, getting just enough heat to move, but not let it run away from you. If you're just joining us for the first time, the wet newspaper is a perfect insulator, allows us to grab the glass. It's about 7 or 8 sheets of newsprint that are folded into about a 7 or 8 inch square pad and soaked in water. And as such, it's a perfectly good insulator, and you can use your hand to grab the glass or shape it. And that's what you just saw Todd doing there a moment ago. Our winner from last week was Joy Campbell McGeegan. She won the green diamond optic ornament. At some point I'll show you what this week's prize is, but be sure to comment. That's what you gets you entered. And we love it when you share the videos. When you share the videos, we get more viewership. Trying to do 2 things at once here. Todd's doing multiple things at once, and I'm having trouble with 2. Anyway, when he swung it out just a little bit further, it gave it a little bit of a flat spot. So he's using the newspaper to shape it back up. And that's how he can control the shape. So it's a lot of reheats, a lot of gentle motions until you finally get to where you want. Another good time to tell you about our Cats for Kids, the colors of the Maryland flag. Todd's come up with that design, and we'll go over here while he marvers it round. Notice he has his hand over the end of the blowpipe. That's to keep the air from escaping and keeps a little pressure. And we're starting to see some really good colors come through there, as I told you earlier, because of the volume of the piece and the stretching out of things. You're starting to get a good view of the colors in there. And that'll become more apparent as the piece goes along. Right now, this gentle rolling on the marver takes out any spots that are a little bit off. And there he goes.
Those colors, some of the colors are stiffer, some of the colors are softer. And that's part of the impact on this balance, is that the blues and greens and purples want to flow. The yellow, orange, and red are tight, and they're kind of in a little bit of a battle for motion and energy. So it changes the complexion of the piece a little bit.
There you go, and that's a perfect explanation. Lots of you have asked before how much color choice affects the working of a piece or its design, and that's a perfect answer right there. If some little parts of this are moving more than others, we've got to accommodate them, but we've got to get the ones that don't want to heat up to temperature. So it's a constant balancing act. If you've recently joined us, I'm going to give you a quick view of what's on our display table. Very close to what Todd's making right now, though the size and shape is different. This pink one and this multicolor one are made where the little windows are facing toward you. You can see the clear glass in between the color square. On this particular one, though, the pieces are turned 90 degrees so that you're observing the color, and the windows are hidden because they touch up to each other. What it is about the color that makes it stiff? the metal oxides, the chemicals that go into making it. The original glass batch is probably close to the same consistency and hardness, if you will. It's not, they're all the same coefficient of expansion, but with some of the glasses, because of the metal oxides that go into them, particularly like if there are yellows, golds, reds, that sort of thing, they're very much different than the cobalt or even some of the copper that may go into them. So the different chemicals that go into the glass change its characteristics. Paddle?
Yeah, I brought one over.
Todd using the paddle now to shape the lower edge of the piece first. And
Strike it.
okay. Now he's adjusting the flame there, and he's going to heat the neck. It's going to be loud for a minute. So we can't have this whole thing get cold. If it goes down below 1,000 or 1,100 degrees, it's going to shatter. So what he's doing right now is heating the neck area a little bit. In just a few moments, he's going to wind up going back to the glory hole. He's going to go back to the glory hole in a few moments and heat just the bottom. Foster is bringing him glass for a cheater. He's going to place it on the bottom, turn the pipe, cast the glass off, and then start to flatten it. Okay, so little stringer on there and it's gone. Okay, so now he'll go in and he'll flash the neck. He'll give the whole thing a momentary heat, but then he's going to have to come back and heat just the bottom. Can you do color on color Murini squares? Yeah, we can do multiple layers of color. We've got a bunch of pieces we've done like that. So it's not just a case of one color. We can put, I don't know, as many colors as we want in it. Okay, so he's going to occasionally flash the neck so it doesn't get cold and crack, but then he's going to heat the very end of the piece. And that's going to allow him to flatten it. And then that little button, the cheater bit that he put on, is going to ensure that the putty goes on and comes off well. So he's inspecting it right now. If he needs, he'll go back for a little more heat. He's going to heat the neck. Don't get burned. Okay. Got to be careful with these torches around here. Rude, I'm not exactly sure how he's going to open it up. When we get through this and part of it and get it transferred successfully and everything, then perhaps we'll talk to him about that a moment. Okay. So now, again, he's making sure that the neck stays warm, but he's going to have to repeatedly torch it, because the time that it's spending outside the glory hole right now is time that it's losing heat. And the more heat it loses, the more danger of cracking later on. So he's heating the bottom part of this. And when it gets hot, you'll see an orange glow to it, and he'll bring it back to the bench and he'll start flattening the bottom with the paddle. He may actually hold the sides in with the newspaper a little later on and have Foster paddle. He's got a beautiful curve at the bottom of that, but you see the bright orange color. This is going to allow him, so now he's stabilizing that by cooling it so it doesn't push in. If he pushed in on all of that while it was extremely hot, it would flatten. So by using these angles, you can see that now he's going to have the bottom of this piece is going to be about 4 inches in diameter. And he accomplished that lower curve by simply cooling it and using the newspaper. He can put a little air in it if he needs to change the shape a bit. Make sure it's nice and flat. Now more noise. Okay, that torching is to heat the neck. He's going to have Foster flash it and keep it under control. Todd's going to make the punty now. So Foster is simply going to flash, get a little bit of heat in it. He's going to give it one more flash and come back to the bench. He'll have a seat at the bench so he can put water on it for Todd, or maybe Todd will take care of that. Todd's going to guide the punty onto the bottom. Now to torch the neck. The neck is very thin. And that's why he needs to torch it so it doesn't get excessively cold. Todd's going to grab a little bit of water. He's going to place that into the neckline. Then he's going to move it up onto the rail. Foster will hit it and it will break free. And there it goes. Okay, another successful transfer. Okay, so now it's time to work on the top half. So if you just tuned in with us, Todd's making a stained glass window style Murini vase. And the colors are not the same as this pink and blue one. He's got a multitude of jewel tones in there, but this is how it will look. The colors will be facing you on the surface. Another way to align the Murini is to have the little windows facing out, but that's for another day. In fact, I think we may already have a video of that. So that's what he's doing with that. So now that was the break off, the transfer. That glass was cold enough to fracture. It's going to take a little while to reheat. So this is probably the longest reheat in the process. And Todd's just going to keep on working that. He's going to move the glass in and out of the glory hole. The bottom half to 2/3 of the vessel is done. So he doesn't need to heat that to any extreme. It doesn't need to be soft enough to move, but he does need to get the top of it done. So that's why he pulls back and forth on the pipe to get different zones of the glass heated. And again, he's heating the opening right now. And then in just a few moments, he'll come back to the bench and he'll start working on what he wants to do here. Come around from behind him so we can see what's going on. He's using his tweezers to pull the glass out a little bit. It didn't break off exactly even, so what he's going to do now is just create a place to pull on it and break that off. Yeah, Bridget, it does look a little bit like alligator skin with the colors facing out. I suppose if we did like browns and greens, we could do that. So sometimes when we get a little bit of an uneven break off, we have a couple of choices about what to do as far as straightening it out. One thing we can do is cut a couple of jack lines in it and actually tap it off to where it makes a straight line. Another thing we could do, if we choose, is to use shears on it. And I believe Todd is probably going to tap this off, but we'll see. By creating the jack line like that and a little bit of a flower on the end, if you will, he's able to pull it out. He's actually able to lengthen it, and you can see that happen right there. He's going to weaken that spot right there, that jack line he cut. Then he'll isolate that from vibration by holding with his shears. Foster will tap down gently on that and knock it off. And there it goes. So there we go. They broke it off instead of shearing it off. And that's usually a good choice when you are, or is a good choice when you're working with cane or Murini, because then you don't wind up cutting the canes or into the canes or Murini. So there you go. We got that done. And now he's able to heat that lip and he'll start opening up as he wishes. Kind of a straight opening, Todd? Okay. So what he'll be doing is working on the shape of the upper third of this vessel and bring a nice line up to the top, and then the opening up there, we'll see. And there'll be pictures of the piece online tomorrow after it comes out of the annealer. So you can see there's a very tiny opening up there where he took it off of the blowing iron. While he uses the jacks, Foster applies a paddle just a little bit, gives us a nice straight line. The paper now is serving to both cool and shape. If you're just joining us, Todd's making a stained glass type piece, and he's used a multitude of colors. We showed you a sample here that had some red and green and gold. I think he's also got some blues and purples in there. And if you're one of the folks that's been asking us about seeing snorkeling, we may not have time to demonstrate that today, but if we don't, it's on our YouTube channel. We always do a 30-minute presentation before we do this Facebook presentation, and today Todd did the snorkeling of the glass, which helps create the Murini with the clear filling in the middle. Again, shaping with the paper, and now going back to round it. Foster's paddle just simply flattens the top a little bit.
We're getting close to the end.
So Foster's going to have two paddles this time. The one in his left hand, he's going to put gently up in front of Todd's forearm, because this piece generates a lot of heat. And then after that, he'll put the paddle on the lip when Todd asks for it. The first paddle is for the protection from the heat, by putting that up, and then when Todd asks for it, we get a paddle onto the lip. And there we're coming up with the shape. Okay, so here's the cutoff from where Todd broke the piece off the top. It's starting to cool a little bit, and you can see some of the blues and purples in there, along with the gold and the red and the green, and some pink, I believe. So it's going to be a beautiful piece. Now that cutoff piece is not annealed, so we'll be tossing that in the bucket in a little while, because it would shatter if left alone to its own devices. Nice even heating. You can see that it's all calm, under control. So we need the shielding of the forearm from underneath when he does that, and paddle on. So when he's using the paper tapers the glass, the paddle flattens the end.
That's still right.
Okay, so now Todd's going to torch it. You reach it? Okay. So you noticed right before the transfer, Todd used the torch to heat the glass that was up at the neck that had been out of the heat for a while so that it didn't crack. That time you noticed him torching the glass that was down by the punty joint because he doesn't want that to get cold and split. So he may do that again, he may not. I'm not sure exactly how that's going to work. So he's letting Foster know where to grab it around the widest diameter so that he can hold it. The punty comes off, and we're using the electric annealer that's in the back. Foster's going to walk in around that door. He's going to put that up into the annealer. And now he gets out, we close the door, and okay, let's hear it for Todd, folks. Way to go. Awesome job. Okay, so there you have it. That was the Murini vase in the stained glass colors, and we got a chance to show you from this shard what some of them look like. We've got some blues, some purples, some greens, and gold, and red. We're going to snorkel? Okay, we're going to snorkel. Good, because I'm down to 10% battery.
Get your fins.
You got a piece of color in? Got a color in, or you want to use some frit?
I need to get some color.
Okay.
Get your fins out.
All right. Do your Murini pieces need to be annealed longer because of the colors and tensions? No, not so much. Most of our annealing time is dictated by the thickness of the glass. And that was pretty thick, so it's going to take a little bit longer. That's why they went into the electric annealer back there. We have more precise control of the temperature drop, and so we're able to get that in there, and it'll probably go an extra, maybe an extra 8 to 10 hours before the normal annealing process, longer than the normal annealing process. Okay, so let's take a quick look at what we got going on here. This is the general design of what you just saw, much bigger and more colorful. Those are Murini that are laid on edge so that the colors are out facing you. We can also take those same Murini and put them so that the clear core is facing you, and it creates a window effect. And if you're just joining us, I'll come on over here and show you what they look like. Those closest to the bottom here have the windows up. When we turn the Murini over, that brings the color out, and then we look through the colors, okay? So that's what's going on with those. And then what we do is we take some colorful glass, and then we have to fill it with clear. We have a couple choices in that. We could basically make a cup, a color cup, and then stuff it with clear glass. Someone else could take multiple gathers and bring enough glass to fill it. But when a glass blower would like to work alone and do it by themselves, it's very easy to do what's called snorkeling the glass, creating a tube, an open tube, and the end of it is actually turned over a little bit so that when you put the pipe into the furnace, it makes full contact with the glass. So if we run out of charge and the video stops, I'll apologize in advance, but you can see the whole thing on the YouTube channel, Art of Fire, and Todd did a masterful job of that earlier today. So he's heating up the pipe, he's got a piece of color in.
Cobalt blue.
What color?
Cobalt blue.
Cobalt blue, okay, everybody's favorite. So hopefully we'll get this done before the 10% charge of power runs out the phone. 10.
Oh, all right.
Todd says, don't rush me now. Anyway, it's a fascinating process, and we've all done this many times, and done properly and well, it's not dangerous at all. But if you just took that blowpipe and stuck it into the furnace and took a deep breath, that would be pretty nasty. That would burn your hands as it traveled up the pipe, and if you didn't let go, it would probably get your lungs. But what we do is we don't draw in air. We shape the tube such that it extends down into the pool of glass and is completely surrounded. I don't think there's a human on Earth that has the lung power to create a vacuum that would bring the glass all the way up the blowpipe and through your mouth. I don't know how many PSI that takes, but it'd be a lot more than we have. What will happen is when he sucks in on the blowpipe, it will draw the glass up to the end of the blowpipe, and then it'll just stop right there. So that's what we're going for. Right now he's got his cobalt blue, and he'll take his cobalt blue and then cover that with a little bit of clear, create a tube, and then drop the tube into the furnace and draw in on the glass. So he's shaping that up now. While he does that, another opportunity to tell you about our Cats for Kids. With our long association with the Maryland Renaissance Fair and being located in Maryland, Todd has chosen the colors from the Maryland flag. So they're Maryland colors, Cats for Kids. They're $60 each. It's a limited edition. They'll only be made this month. The sale ends at the end of the month, and at the $60, half of it goes toward No Kid Hungry. We raised money for them back in November, and you all were very supportive. We got a lot of feedback and orders then when we were making drinking glasses, so we're at it again. So there's shipping is included unless you're overseas. International shipping, it would be extra. Is sucking a glass up harder or easier than trying to drink a milkshake? Probably a little bit like a thick milkshake. And actually, we don't just do like one long draw on it. It's like a pulsing action, kind of helps get it going really well. And it doesn't take long. The tube is only a few inches long, so it's not a great big thing. We can make them longer, we can stretch them out, and in fact, when Todd gathers this one and has it ready to pull, before pulling it will probably be rectangular shaped, and the body of it will be about 2 inches square. When he gets done, it'll be closer to about 3/4 of an inch square, and it'll be about 5 feet long or so. Thank you, Barbara. We appreciate the feedback, and I'm glad that you enjoy the drinking glasses. Yeah, like a Wendy's Frosty. That's right, Rachel. Okay, so once again, we're getting down to the bitter end on the phone charge. We're not below 5% yet. But if we, yeah, the color was cold when it went in. So if we don't get to show you the entire process, hop on over to the YouTube channel and you'll see the whole thing with the snorkeling. So Todd right now is trying to get this blue to melt. Blue is a soft color, but the chunk was cold when it went into the annealer. He's going to get that melted. He'll introduce a bubble into it, and then after he gets the bubble in it and can inflate it some, he'll gather once over it. There'll be a thin coating of clear on the outside, and then from there on, it'll be time to shape up the tube. There he goes with the blowing cap, a little bit of air inside the bubble. You can actually see it inflate from here. So now all he needs to do is get that cool enough to put the extra coating on the outside, and then it'll be time to start blowing it out, opening it up, and making the tube. So this will be Snorkeling the Glass. It'll be a tube that is open on its end as well as at the blowpipe, so a hollow tube, and it'll be shaped so that it curves over so that he can stand in front of the furnace, lower the tube into the furnace, and then suck in on the blowpipe and only have glass come back up the pipe rather than any hot air. Yeah, you probably use a wireless battery pack, but what would probably be better is to make sure the phone's charged before we start, fully charged. So we had an issue the last couple of weeks between the internet and other such things, and we've changed phones a couple of times. And so today we're using a different phone. Hope it's been working all right so far, but what we'll have to do is make sure that if we're using this one, it's got 100% instead of 60 when we start. So he's got the clear coating on it. He's rolling it out into a cylinder. In a few moments, he's going to blow it out some, changing the shape, altering it, getting it nicely under control. Kristen, thanks for being with us. It is an amazing process, and hopefully this little exercise will be on this video, but if it's not, certainly check out the YouTube channel. For those of you that have been commenting, you're entered in a drawing for next week's prize, and that's going to be an ornament. I'm going to walk over and show that to you in just a moment. Right now, Todd's getting ready to open the end of the tube. He's going to use his tweezers to pull it out. Then he's going to create a constriction that he's going to tap off the end of the pipe. And where he taps it off, the bubble's already down that far. So he's going to blow it out just a little bit more, and then he'll knock the glass off at that constriction, and it will be the open tube. A little bit of water all around the constriction. The edge of the tweezers cool it more, and then a tap, and it comes off. And he's trying to accommodate my ever-dying phone, and so he's pushing the process, and that's why it didn't come off exactly right, but he got it. So I've noticed this start to freeze up on this end too, so we're probably getting close to the end. You're not pixelated yet, but this video takes a lot out of it. So, oh yeah, so now he's just messing with us. Hopefully we'll get to see the creation of the tube. He needs to open this up. Getting a nice diameter so he can get a lot of glass up in it. Now when he pulls that lip like that, that starts curling it over, and now this is setting up the angle, and with that lip on the far side, he'll be sure to make contact with the pool of glass. So now you can see, he's going to hold that at an angle, just about like he's holding it right now. That will go into the pool of glass. When he sucks in on the blowpipe, it'll pull the glass up there, so you're going to get to see the snorkel. We haven't lost it yet. He goes in, and here he goes. He's sucking in on the pipe. You see he's drawing the breath repeatedly. It's not one long draw. When he comes out, you'll see the glass within that transparent blue color. And now all he'll have to do is get that back to a cylindrical shape, fold some of the glass over to get it out of his way. And there's your snorkeling process, folks. So from here on, it's just shape it into a cylinder and pull it. Now, an alternative would have been, when he had that tube created, he could have had me or Foster take another iron, gather a bunch of glass up, clear glass on it, and then drop it into the tube.